The medical station floated silently in the darkness of space. It was called Valora Prime, and it was one of the best emergency hospitals in Sector 12. Ships came here from all directions: mining accidents, transport crashes, factory injuries. The doctors and nurses of Valora Prime had seen everything, or so they believed. Dr. Vell stood in the main treatment room and checked his equipment for the third time that hour. He was a Marathi, a species known for their calm nature and steady hands. He had 4 arms, which made him an excellent surgeon. His skin was a soft gray color, and his large dark eyes rarely showed emotion. In 200 cycles of medical work, he had learned to stay calm in every situation. The station was quiet tonight. Only a few patients rested in the recovery rooms. A Kellyan worker with a burned hand. An Orivian pilot with a minor head wound. Nothing serious, nothing unusual. Nurse Tova walked into the room carrying a tray of medical supplies. She was small, even for a Kellyan. Her body was covered in a hard shell, the color of copper, and her 2 antennae moved constantly, sensing the air around her. She was young and nervous, always worried about making mistakes. "Dr. Vell," she said, her voice soft and clicking, "I finished organizing the supply room. Is there anything else you need?" "No, Tova, thank you." Dr. Vell placed a surgical tool back on its shelf. "It seems we will have a peaceful night." "I hope so." Tova's antennae twitched. "I heard medical technician Rin talking about humans again. He says they are coming to this sector more often now." Dr. Vell made a low sound in his throat. Humans. The newest species to join the Galactic Coalition. They came from a small blue planet in a distant arm of the galaxy. Most species had never seen one in person. Dr. Vell certainly had not. "Rin talks too much," Dr. Vell said. "Humans are just another species. They get injured. We treat them. That is all." "But the stories," Tova said, her antennae pressing flat against her head, "they say humans are strange, that they heal from wounds that would kill others, that they feel pain differently. Stories are often exaggerated." Dr. Vell turned to face her. "I have read the medical files on humans. They are fragile creatures, soft skin, weak bones. They cannot survive in extreme temperatures. They need constant water and food. The Coalition classified them as Category 4, which means they are delicate beings who require careful handling." Tova did not look convinced. "Rin says the classification is wrong." Before Dr. Vell could respond, medical technician Rin walked into the room. He was tall and thin, an Orivian with pale skin that glowed faintly with bioluminescent light. His people lived on dark ocean worlds, and their bodies produced their own soft glow. Right now, that glow was pulsing quickly, which meant he was excited or worried. "Dr. Vell," Rin said, his voice urgent, "we just received a distress signal. Mining outpost K-17. There was a cave collapse." Dr. Vell's calm expression did not change, but he moved quickly toward the communication console. "How many injured?" "Unknown. The signal was weak, but they are sending a shuttle now with survivors." Rin paused and his skin flickered. "One of the survivors is listed as human." The room went silent. Tova's antennae stood straight up. Dr. Vell felt something cold move through his body. It was not fear. He did not feel fear. It was simply awareness of the unknown. "A human," Dr. Vell repeated. "Have you ever treated a human, Rin?" "No, doctor. I have never even seen one." "Neither have I." Dr. Vell walked to the main treatment bed and began preparing it. "But we are medical professionals. We will treat this human as we would treat any patient, with skill and with care." Tova moved to help him, but her small hands were shaking. "What if the stories are true? What if humans are different?" "Then we will learn," Dr. Vell said. "That is what doctors do." The next 30 minutes passed slowly. The medical team prepared everything they might need: bone repair gel, blood synthesizers, pain medication designed for various species. Dr. Vell reviewed the human medical file one more time. Their bodies were surprisingly similar to many other species. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 heart, 1 brain. Red blood. They were nothing special. The communication console beeped. The shuttle was approaching. "It will dock in 5 minutes," Rin announced. "I will go to the airlock with the hover stretcher." "I will come with you," Dr. Vell said. Tova, stay here and prepare the sedation equipment. Cave collapse injuries are often severe. The patient may be in extreme pain. We will need to put them to sleep immediately. Tova nodded quickly. Yes, doctor. I will have everything ready. Dr. Vel and Rin walked through the white corridors of the station toward the docking area. Their footsteps echoed in the silence. Neither of them spoke. There was nothing to say. The airlock doors were large and heavy. A small window showed the darkness of space outside. Soon they could see the shuttle approaching. It was a standard emergency transport, painted red and white. It moved slowly and carefully toward the station. Rin positioned the hover stretcher near the airlock. I wonder how bad the injuries are. Cave collapses can be terrible. Falling rocks, crushing weight. Many species do not survive such things. Humans are fragile, Dr. Vel reminded him. The medical file says their bones break easily. We must be prepared for severe damage. The shuttle connected to the station with a soft thump. The airlock hissed as pressure equalized between the two vessels. Red lights turned green. The doors were ready to open. Dr. Vel held his medical scanner in one hand. Rin gripped the hover stretcher controls. They were ready. The airlock doors slid open. Dr. Vel expected to see shuttle crew members carrying a broken body on a stretcher. He expected blood and torn flesh and unconscious silence. He expected the kind of patient who was barely alive. What he saw made him freeze. A figure stood in the doorway, not lying down, standing, on 2 feet. It was the human, and he was looking right at them. The human stood in the airlock doorway like a creature from a nightmare. His face was covered in dried blood. One of his eyes was swollen shut, purple and black. His left arm hung at his side at an angle that was completely wrong. His clothes were torn and covered in dust and dark stains. And he was standing, on his own 2 feet, looking at them. Dr. Vel could not move. His 4 arms hung at his sides, useless. His medical scanner slipped from his fingers and clattered on the floor. In 200 cycles of medicine, he had never dropped an instrument, not once. Rin made a sound that was somewhere between a gasp and a whimper. His bioluminescent skin flickered wildly, flashing from pale white to deep blue and back again. The hover stretcher drifted away from his frozen hands. The human took a step forward. His right leg moved strangely, as if something inside it was broken. He limped, but he did not fall. He took another step, then another. Sorry I'm late, the human said. His voice was rough and wet, like there was liquid in his lungs. Traffic was rough. Dr. Vel's medical scanner lay on the floor between them. It was still active, still running its automatic scan on the nearest lifeform. Numbers and data scrolled across its small screen. Dr. Vel looked down at it. The numbers made no sense. He picked up the scanner with shaking hands and read the display again. Then he read it a third time, because surely the device was broken. Surely the data was wrong. 17 fractures. The human had 17 broken bones. 3 ribs on the left side, 2 ribs on the right. His left arm was broken in 2 places. His right leg had a fracture in the lower bone. His collarbone was cracked. 4 fingers on his left hand were broken. 2 bones in his face were damaged. His right ankle had a small fracture. 17 broken bones. And he was standing. And he was talking. And he had just made a joke about traffic. I need to sit down, the human said. He looked at the hover stretcher that had drifted to the side of the corridor. Is that for me? Nice. Very fancy. He walked toward it. He walked. With a broken leg and a fractured ankle, he walked across the floor like it was nothing. Each step must have sent waves of agony through his body. Each movement must have been torture. But his face showed only tiredness and mild discomfort. Dr. Vel finally found his voice. Stop. Please stop moving. You will cause more damage. The human paused and looked at him. His one good eye studied Dr. Vel with curiosity. You're the doctor? 4 arms. That's useful. I bet surgery is easy for you. Please, Dr. Vel said again. You must lie down. You are severely injured. Yeah, I figured. The human looked down at his twisted arm. This one's definitely broken. Maybe the leg too. Ribs feel bad. Breathing hurts. He shrugged with his one working shoulder. I've had worse. He had worse. He had worse than 17 broken bones. What kind of creature was this? Rin finally recovered enough to guide the hover stretcher toward the human. Please, sir, please lie down. We will take you to the treatment room. The human lowered himself onto the stretcher. Even this simple movement should have caused screaming pain. He only grunted softly, like someone sitting down after a long day of work. Name's Kang Taiho, he said, looking up at them. Structural engineer. I was at the mining outpost when the ceiling came down. Mr. Kang, Dr. Vell said, using the human naming format he had read about. How are you conscious right now? How are you speaking? Taiho blinked at him. Why wouldn't I be? You have 17 fractures. 17. In most species, that level of skeletal damage causes immediate nervous system shutdown. The pain alone should have rendered you unconscious hours ago. Taiho seemed to think about this. It does hurt a lot, but I had things to do. Couldn't pass out. Could not pass out? Rin's voice was high and thin. You chose not to lose consciousness? Something like that. Taiho's eyes started to close. He was finally getting tired. The others, the miners, did they make it? I put them on the shuttle. Did they make it? Dr. Vell checked his communication device. There were reports coming in from the shuttle crew. There were 7 miners on board with you. 3 Kellian, 3 Arivian, and 1 human female. They are all alive. Minor to moderate injuries. You saved them. Taiho smiled. It was a strange, broken smile on his damaged face. Good. That's good. I was worried about Sora. She hit her head pretty hard. His eye closed completely. For a moment, Dr. Vell thought the human had finally died. Then the medical scanner showed that he was still breathing, still alive. He had simply fallen asleep. Fallen asleep, with 17 broken bones, like a child taking a nap. Dr. Vell and Rin stood in silence, staring at the impossible creature on the hover stretcher. Doctor, Rin whispered, what is he? Dr. Vell shook his head slowly. He is human. That is what humans are. But the medical files say they are fragile. Category 4. Delicate beings. The medical files are wrong. Dr. Vell began pushing the stretcher toward the treatment room. The medical files are very, very wrong. They moved through the corridors quickly. Taiho slept on, his chest rising and falling with wet, rattling breaths. Dr. Vell's mind was racing. He had read about human biology. He had studied their anatomy. Nothing in those files had prepared him for this. When they reached the treatment room, Nurse Tova was waiting with the sedation equipment. She looked at the stretcher, at the sleeping human, at his twisted and broken body. Then she fainted. She dropped to the floor without a sound, her copper shell making a soft click against the tiles. Her antennae went limp. She was completely unconscious. Rin moved to help her, but Dr. Vell stopped him. She will be fine. Help me with the patient first. They lifted Taiho onto the main treatment bed. The machines around them came to life, scanning and measuring and analyzing. More data appeared on the screens. More impossible numbers. His heart rate was elevated but stable. His blood pressure was higher than normal but not dangerous. His brain activity showed he was in a light sleep, not a pain-induced coma. His body was functioning almost normally, despite the 17 broken bones trying to tear it apart from the inside. Dr. Vell looked at the human on his table and felt something he had not felt in a very long time. It was cold and heavy in his chest. It took him a moment to recognize it. Fear. He was afraid of this creature. Not because it was dangerous, not because it might hurt him. He was afraid because he did not understand it. He was afraid because everything he knew about medicine and biology and the limits of living things was suddenly wrong. What else were humans capable of? What else could they survive? What else could they endure? And most importantly, why had the galaxy classified them as fragile? Dr. Vell picked up his surgical tools and began to work. He had a patient to save. Questions could wait. But the fear did not leave him. Dr. Vell worked on the human for 3 hours before taking his first break. His forearms were tired. His mind was more tired. Everything about this patient confused him. He stepped away from the treatment bed and looked at Kang Tae-ho. The human was still sleeping. His breathing had improved since Dr. Vell had drained the fluid from his lungs. The cuts on his face had been cleaned and sealed. The broken bones had been set and wrapped in healing gel. But he was not unconscious from pain. He was just sleeping. Normally, like nothing was wrong. Medical technician Rin stood by the monitoring equipment, watching the numbers on the screens. His bioluminescent skin had stopped flickering. Now it just glowed a steady, worried blue. "Doctor," Rin said quietly, "I have scanned him 4 times. The equipment is not broken. These readings are accurate." "I know." Dr. Vell walked to the data console and pulled up the human's file. "I have been comparing his biology to other species. I cannot find anything that explains this." Nurse Tova had woken up from her faint an hour ago. She sat in the corner of the room, her antennae pressed flat against her head, her small hands clutching a cup of warm liquid. She had not said a word since regaining consciousness. "In Marathi physiology," Dr. Vell continued, 3 fractures cause automatic shutdown of all motor functions. Our nervous system protects itself by stopping all movement. It is a survival mechanism. We feel the pain, we collapse, we wait for help. "Kellians are similar," Tova said softly. It was the first thing she had spoken. 2 fractures and we enter emergency hibernation. Our bodies freeze until the damage is repaired. "And Arivians lose consciousness immediately," Rin added. "Any serious bone injury sends us into a healing coma. We cannot wake up until the bones begin to mend." Dr. Vell nodded. "Every species we know of has some form of pain-induced shutdown. It is logical. It is efficient. It prevents further damage." He looked at Taiho. "But humans have no such mechanism. Their nervous system sends pain signals, but it does not force them to stop. They can choose to keep moving." "Choose?" Rin's voice cracked. "They choose to feel that much pain?" "It appears so." Dr. Keyvel accessed the Galactic Coalition medical database and searched for human entries. He found a section on pain tolerance and read it aloud. "Human nervous system contains override mechanisms. A chemical compound called adrenaline allows temporary suppression of pain signals. Additionally, psychological factors such as willpower and determination can allow humans to function despite severe injury. These factors remain difficult to measure, but have been documented in multiple cases." The room was silent. Tova's antennae trembled. Rin's skin flickered once, then went still. "Willpower," Dr. Vell repeated the word. "They use their minds to ignore their bodies. They decide not to feel pain, and somehow their bodies obey." "That is not possible," Tova whispered. "That cannot be possible." "And yet," Dr. Vell gestured at the human on the bed. "Here he is, 17 fractures, walking, talking, making jokes." On the treatment bed, Taiho stirred. His good eye opened slowly. He looked around the room, taking in the alien faces and strange equipment. Then he tried to sit up. "No." Dr. Vell moved quickly and pressed a gentle hand against Taiho's chest. "Please, you must rest. Your bones are still healing." Taiho relaxed back onto the bed. "How long was I out?" "About 3 hours. I have treated your most serious injuries, but you need more time to recover." Taiho nodded. Then he asked the question again, the same one he had asked when he first arrived. "The miners, are they okay? What about Sora and Minho?" Dr. Vell felt something strange in his chest. This human had 17 broken bones. He had almost died. And his first thought, his only thought, was about other people. "They are all recovering in separate rooms," Dr. Vell said. "The human female, Sora, had a head injury, but she is awake now. The human male, Minho, had some internal damage, but he is stable. The Kellian and Arivian miners have minor injuries. They will all survive." Taiho closed his eye and let out a long breath. "Good, that's good. I was worried." "You were worried about them?" Dr. Vell could not keep the confusion out of his voice. "You have 17 broken bones, multiple organ damage, you lost a significant amount of blood, and you were worried about them." Taiho opened his eye again. He looked at Dr. Vell with an expression that seemed almost confused. "Of course I was worried about them. They're my crew, my friends. What else would I be worried about?" Dr. Vell did not have an answer. In his experience, severely injured patients thought only of themselves. They focused on their own pain, their own survival. They did not ask about others until they were fully healed. It was natural. It was logical. But humans were not logical. Mr. Kang, Dr. Bell said carefully, I need to ask you something. During the cave collapse, how did you survive? How did you make it to the shuttle? Taeho was quiet for a moment. His eye looked at the ceiling, seeing something far away. When he spoke, his voice was flat and tired. The ceiling came down. I pushed some of the Kellyan workers out of the way. That's when I got hit. Felt my ribs go. Arm too. I went down. He paused. When I woke up, I was under the rocks. My leg was stuck. I could hear people screaming, crying. They were trapped deeper in the tunnel. And you were severely injured at this point. Yeah, pretty broken. But I could still move my right arm. So I started digging. Taiho's voice was matter-of-fact, like he was describing a normal day at work. Took a while to get my leg free. That hurt. A lot. But once I was out, I could walk, sort of. Found Sora first. She was unconscious. Dragged her to the emergency pod, then went back for Minho, then the Kellyans, then the Arivians. You made multiple trips. Dr. Vell's voice was barely a whisper. Through a collapsing tunnel with 17 broken bones. Had to. They couldn't walk. Somebody had to get them out. The room fell silent again. Dr. Vell looked at Rin. Rin looked at Tova. Tova looked at the floor. This human had crawled out of a collapsed tunnel with a broken body. He had dragged 7 people to safety, one by one, while his bones ground against each other with every movement. He had done this not because he felt no pain, but despite the pain. He had done this because other people needed help. Dr. Vell finally asked the question that had been burning in his mind since the airlock doors opened. Mr. Kang, what are humans? What kind of species evolves to do what you do? Taiho looked at him. There was no pride in his expression, no boasting, just simple honesty. We're just people, Doc. We break, we bleed, we die. Same as everyone else. He paused. We just don't stop until we're done. He closed his eye and went back to sleep. Dr. Vell stood in the silent room, surrounded by advanced medical equipment, and realized that he understood nothing. He was one of the best doctors in the sector. He had studied medicine for 2 centuries, and he understood nothing about the creature sleeping in front of him. Humans were not fragile. They were not delicate. They were something else entirely. And Dr. Vell was not sure whether to be amazed or terrified. 6 hours before Kang Taiho walked into the medical station, he was 3 kilometers underground on mining outpost K-17. The tunnel was dark except for the blue glow of work lights. The air was thick with dust and the smell of broken rock. Taiho checked the support beams along the tunnel wall. This was his job. He was a structural engineer, which meant he made sure tunnels did not fall on people. He had been doing this work for 8 years on 6 different planets, and he was good at it. These beams are getting old, he said into his communication device. I'm recommending we replace the ones in Section C before we dig any deeper. Park Sora's voice came through the speaker. She was the team's geologist, a small woman with sharp eyes and a quick mind. The rock composition in Section C is unstable anyway. I've been telling the company for weeks. They don't listen. That was Yoon Minho, the safety officer. He was older than Taiho and Sora, with gray in his hair and worry lines on his face. They never listen until something breaks. Taiho looked down the tunnel. About 50 meters away, a team of miners was working. 3 Kellyans with their copper shells and quick hands. 3 Orivians with their glowing skin and long fingers. Good workers, all of them. Taiho had shared meals with them, learned their names, heard their stories. How are you doing down there? Taiho called out to them. One of the Kellyans, a female named Vessa, waved a hand in response. Almost done with this section. Another hour and we can move to the next level. Take your time, no rushing. Taiho walked closer to them, checking the walls and ceiling as he went. I don't like the sound this rock is making. He pressed his hand against the tunnel wall. There was a vibration, very faint. Most people would not notice it, but Taiho had been doing this for 8 years. He knew what that vibration meant. Something was wrong. Everyone, stop working. His voice was sharp and sudden. The miners looked up at him in confusion. I said stop, now. Something is... The world exploded. The sound came first. A deep, terrible groan from somewhere above them, like the planet itself was screaming. Then the ceiling cracked. Then it fell. Taiho did not think. He did not plan. He simply moved. He grabbed the two closest Kellians and threw them backward, away from the falling rocks. His body took their place. A boulder the size of a transport vehicle came down on top of him. He felt his ribs break. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The sound was wet and horrible, like branches snapping in a storm. His left arm was caught under the edge of the boulder. He heard the bones crack before he felt it. Then he was on the ground, buried under rock and dust, and the world went dark. When Taiho woke up, he did not know how much time had passed. Minutes, maybe. Hours. He could not tell. There was rock above him and rock below him and rock on all sides. His left arm was pinned under something heavy. His right leg was twisted at a bad angle. Every breath sent fire through his chest. He could not see anything. The work lights were gone, buried or broken. There was only darkness. But he could hear something. Voices. Crying. Someone was calling for help in a language he did not understand. One of the Arivians, maybe. Their voices had a musical quality, even when they were screaming. Taiho lay in the darkness and felt the pain washing over him. It was enormous, overwhelming, like being held underwater in an ocean of fire. His body wanted to stop. His mind wanted to sleep. Everything inside him was begging him to give up, to close his eyes, to let the darkness take him. But someone was crying for help. Taiho started to dig. He could only use his right arm. His left was trapped and useless, but his right hand could still move, could still scratch at the rocks, could still push debris aside inch by inch. He dug until his fingers bled. He dug until his fingernails tore off. He kept digging. The rock pinning his leg shifted. Taiho felt something grind inside his ankle. Another fracture. He did not stop. He pushed and pulled and twisted until finally, his leg came free. The pain was so intense that he vomited. His vision went white, but he did not lose consciousness. He could not lose consciousness. Someone was still crying. Taiho crawled out of the rubble. Every movement was agony. His broken ribs scraped against each other. His shattered arm dragged uselessly behind him. His leg left a trail of blood on the rocks. When he reached open air, he saw the destruction. Half the tunnel had collapsed. Rocks and debris were everywhere. The emergency lights had activated, filling the space with a dim red glow. And there, about 10 meters away, was Park Sora. She was lying on the ground, motionless. Blood covered her face. Taiho crawled to her. It took a long time. Every meter felt like a kilometer. When he reached her, he pressed his fingers against her neck. There was a pulse. Weak, but there. Sora. His voice was a broken whisper. Sora, wake up. She did not respond, but she was breathing. She was alive. Taiho looked around. The emergency pod was about 30 meters away, near the tunnel entrance. It was designed for exactly this kind of disaster. Thick walls, medical supplies, communication equipment. If he could get Sora to the pod, she would be safe. 30 meters, with a broken body, dragging an unconscious woman. Taiho grabbed Sora's arm and started to pull. It took him 20 minutes to reach the pod. 20 minutes of dragging himself forward on his one good arm while pulling Sora with the other. 20 minutes of feeling his body scream at him to stop. 20 minutes of ignoring it. He got Sora inside the pod and went back for Minho. Minho was conscious but trapped under a fallen beam. His leg was crushed. He could not move. Taiho! Minho's eyes were wide with fear and pain. Your arm, your chest. You need help. Later. Taiho started clearing the debris around Minho. His broken fingers screamed with every piece of rock he moved. Help is later. You're now. It took another 15 minutes to free Minho, then another 20 to drag him to the pod. By then, Taiho could barely see. His vision was blurring. His body was shaking, but he could still hear the voices. The miners. They were still alive, deeper in the tunnel. He went back. The Kellians were huddled together in a small pocket of air, protected by a fallen support beam. They were injured but alive. Taiho carried them out one at a time, their small bodies light in his arms despite his shattered bones. The Arivians were harder to find. They had been buried deeper. Two of them were unconscious. The third, a young male, was awake and crying. "It hurts," he sobbed. "It hurts so much." Taiho looked at him. This young Arivian, barely an adult by his species standards, was experiencing what was probably the worst pain of his life. A few broken bones, some cuts. Nothing compared to what Taiho was feeling right now. But pain was pain, fear was fear, and this young man needed help. "I know it hurts," Taiho said. His voice was calm, steady, even as his body was falling apart. "But I'm going to get you out. I'm going to get you all out. Do you understand?" The young Orivian nodded, tears streaming down his glowing face. Taiho carried him to the pod. Then he went back for the other two. By the time he loaded the last survivor onto the emergency shuttle, Taiho had made 7 trips through the collapsing tunnel. 7 trips with 17 broken bones. 7 trips while his body begged him to stop, to fall, to die. But he could not die. Not yet. His people were counting on him. When the shuttle doors closed and the engine started, Taiho finally let himself sit down. His vision was almost completely gone now. His breathing was wet and painful. He could feel his body shutting down, all the damage finally catching up with him. But everyone was safe. Everyone would live. Taiho closed his eyes and let the darkness take him. When he woke up, he was standing in the airlock of Valora Prime, looking at 2 terrified aliens with a hover stretcher. And the first thing he did was apologize for being late. Dr. Vell had been operating for 5 hours. His 4 hands moved in perfect coordination, setting bones, sealing wounds, repairing damaged tissue. Around him, the machines hummed and beeped, monitoring every aspect of the human's condition. The human was still awake. "We need to give him more sedation," Rin said. His voice was shaky. "He should not be conscious during surgery. I have already given him 3 times the normal dose." Dr. Vell did not look up from his work. He was carefully realigning the bones in Taiho's left arm. "Any more would be dangerous." Taiho watched the surgery with his one good eye. He seemed interested, not afraid. "Is that my arm bone? It looks weird from this angle." "Please do not move," Dr. Vell said. "And yes, that is your radius. I am putting it back in the correct position." "Cool. Hey, is the sedation supposed to feel this light? I can still feel my legs." Dr. Vell stopped working. He looked at the monitoring equipment, then at Rin, then at Taiho. "You can feel your legs?" "Yeah, they're kind of tingly." "You should not be able to feel anything below your neck. The sedation should have blocked all sensation." Taiho shrugged with his one working shoulder. "Guess I'm resistant. My mom always said I was stubborn." Resistant. The human was resistant to sedation. Dr. Vell added this to the growing list of impossible things about his patient. "I am going to increase the dose one more time," Dr. Vell said. "Please tell me if you feel anything unusual." "You mean more unusual than watching you rebuild my arm?" Despite the situation, Dr. Vell felt his mouth twitch. That was almost a smile. When was the last time a patient had made him smile during surgery? He could not remember. He administered the 4th dose of sedation. This was the maximum safe amount for most species. For humans, according to the database, it should be more than enough to induce deep sleep. Taiho blinked slowly. "Okay, that's better. Things are getting fuzzy. Please count backward from 10. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. His eye closed. His breathing deepened. Finally, he was unconscious. Nurse Tova let out a breath she had been holding. "I thought he would never sleep." "Humans have remarkable chemical resistance," Dr. Vell said, returning to his work. "We will need to update our medication protocols." With the patient finally sedated, Dr. Vell could focus on the deeper repairs. He opened up the damaged areas and began the delicate work of rebuilding what the cave collapse had broken. That was when he made his first discovery. "Rin," Dr. Vell said quietly, "come look at this." Rin moved to his side and looked at the display screen showing the internal scan of Taiho's skeleton. His bioluminescent skin flickered with confusion. "I do not understand. What am I looking at?" "Look at the right arm, the left leg, the lower back." Dr. Vell pointed to each area on the scan. "What do you see?" Rin studied the images. His confusion slowly turned to disbelief. "Those are healed fractures, old ones. But there are so many. 17 current fractures, Dr. Vell said, and 23 previously healed fractures. This human has broken 40 bones in his lifetime. Tova made a small, frightened sound. How is that possible? How is he still alive? Humans heal. Dr. Vell zoomed in on one of the old fractures. Look at the bone structure. The break happened years ago, but the bone has regrown stronger than before. Thicker, denser. His body learned from the damage and adapted. Adapted. Rin's voice was hollow. You mean humans get stronger when they break? Not stronger exactly, but more resilient. Their bones become harder to break in the same place. Dr. Vell pulled up the full skeletal scan. This human has been broken and healed so many times that parts of his skeleton are now reinforced with scar tissue. He is literally harder to kill than he was when he was born. The operating room fell silent. The only sounds were the beeping of machines and the soft hiss of the air system. Dr. Vell accessed the Coalition database again and searched for human historical records. What he found made him stop breathing for a moment. Doctor? Tova asked. What is it? Dr. Vell read from the screen. In human history, there are records of individuals who continued to function after losing limbs, after severe burns, after damage that should have been instantly fatal. One human soldier continued fighting for several hours after receiving wounds that destroyed half his internal organs. Another survived falling from a great height, breaking most of his bones, and walked to find help. He paused. These are not considered exceptional cases. They are simply documented examples. Simply documented? Rin's skin was flickering rapidly. These are miracles. These are impossible. Not for humans. Dr. Vell turned back to his patient. For humans, this is normal. He continued the surgery, but his mind was elsewhere. He thought about his own species, the Marathi. They were considered strong by galactic standards. They lived for centuries. They could survive in harsh environments. But if a Marathi suffered the kind of damage this human had suffered, they would die. Instantly and without question. Humans should not exist. Their planet was dangerous. Their bodies were fragile. Their lifespans were short. Everything about their biology suggested a weak, vulnerable species that should have gone extinct long ago. But they had not gone extinct. They had survived. They had thrived. They had spread across their world and then beyond it, into the stars, because they did not stop. Dr. Vell looked at the sleeping human on his table. This creature had crawled through a collapsing tunnel with 17 broken bones. He had saved 7 people while his body was tearing itself apart. And when he arrived at the medical station, his first words were an apology for being late. What kind of species produces individuals like this? The answer, Dr. Vell realized, was a terrifying one. Humans were not strong despite their fragility. They were strong because of it. Their bodies broke easily, so they learned to push through the breaking. Their lives were short, so they learned to make every moment count. Their world was dangerous, so they learned to be more dangerous than anything that threatened them. Humans were not apex predators because of claws or teeth or venom. They were apex predators because they simply refused to die. Dr. Vell finished the surgery as the station's artificial dawn began to glow through the windows. Taiho's bones were set, his wounds were sealed, his organs were repaired. By all medical standards, he should need weeks of recovery, months perhaps. But Dr. Vell had read the human medical files. He knew that this patient would probably try to walk out of the station in a matter of days. And the terrifying thing was, he would probably succeed. Nurse Tova approached with a datapad. Dr. Vell, I have finished compiling the report on human physiology. The Coalition Medical Board is requesting an update to the species classification. Dr. Vell took the datapad and looked at it. Category 4, fragile bipeds. That was the current classification for humans. He thought about Kang Taiho. 17 broken bones, still upright, still fighting, still asking about others. Delete the classification, Dr. Vell said. We need to start over. We need to understand what humans really are. Tova nodded and hurried away. Dr. Vell looked at his sleeping patient one last time. What are you? He whispered. The human did not answer. He just slept on, his broken body already beginning to heal. Kang Taiho woke up 14 hours after his surgery. This was remarkable because the medical projections had estimated at least 3 days of unconsciousness. When Dr. Vell heard the news, he simply nodded. He was no longer surprised by anything this human did. When Dr. Vell entered the recovery room, Taiho was already trying to sit up. His left arm was wrapped in healing gel and suspended in a support device. His chest was bandaged. His face was still swollen and bruised, but his one good eye was open and alert. "Please lie down," Dr. Vell said. "Your body needs rest." Taiho looked at him. "Did everyone make it? You told me before, but I was pretty out of it." "The miners, Sora, Minho, they're all okay?" Again with the others. Dr. Vell had treated thousands of patients in his career. He had never met anyone who cared more about other people than about themselves. "They are all recovering," Dr. Vell said. He moved to the side of the bed and checked the monitoring equipment. "The Kellian and Arivian miners have been discharged. Minor injuries only. Sora had a concussion, but she is stable. Minho required surgery for internal bleeding, but he is out of danger." Taiho let out a long breath. The tension in his shoulders relaxed slightly. "Good. That's good. They have all asked about you," Dr. Vell continued. "Several times, especially the young Arivian you carried out of the tunnel. He has asked to see you." Something flickered across Taiho's bruised face. It might have been a smile. "Nice kid. Scared but brave. He tried to help me dig at one point, even though he could barely move." "You inspired him." Dr. Vell did not mean to say it. The words simply came out. "You inspired all of them. The way you kept going, despite everything. They have never seen anything like it." Taiho looked uncomfortable. He shifted in the bed, wincing as his broken ribs protested. "I didn't do anything special. I just did what needed to be done." Dr. Vell was quiet for a moment. Then he asked the question that had been on his mind since the surgery. "Mr. Kang, during the cave collapse, when you were buried under the rocks, broken and bleeding, what made you keep going? What stopped you from giving up?" Taiho thought about it. His eye looked at the ceiling, seeing something far away. "I could hear them crying," he said finally. "The miners. They were scared and hurt and alone in the dark. And I thought about my family back home. My mother, my sister. I thought about how they would feel if I died in some tunnel on a planet they've never even heard of." He paused. His voice was quiet when he continued. "And then I thought about the families of those miners, the people waiting for them to come home. The children who would grow up without parents if I didn't get them out." He looked at Dr. Vell. "I couldn't let that happen. I couldn't let those families lose their people. So I kept moving." Dr. Vell stood in silence. He did not know what to say. In 200 cycles of medicine, he had never heard a patient speak like this. Before he could respond, the door opened. A human female walked in, wearing the formal uniform of the Galactic Coalition Diplomatic Corps. She was older than Taiho, with gray hair pulled back from her face and sharp, intelligent eyes. "Engineer Kang," she said, nodding to Taiho. "I am Ambassador Lee Gina. I came as soon as I heard about the incident." Taiho tried to salute, which was impossible with one arm suspended and the other wrapped in bandages. "Ambassador, I apologize for not standing." "Please don't apologize for anything." Gina's voice was warm but firm. "You saved 7 lives. The Coalition is very grateful. Your company is very grateful. I am very grateful." She turned to Dr. Vell. "Doctor, may I speak with you privately? I have some questions about human medical needs that might be relevant for future incidents." Dr. Vell nodded. They stepped into the corridor outside the recovery room. The door closed behind them, leaving Taiho alone with his thoughts. "Dr. Vell," Gina began, "I understand that you had some difficulties treating Engineer Kang, that his condition was unexpected." "Unexpected is one word for it." Dr. Vell's voice was flat. "Ambassador, that man walked into my station with 17 broken bones. He was conscious, ambulatory, and coherent. I have been practicing medicine for 200 cycles. I have never seen anything like it." Gina nodded slowly. "I imagine you have questions. Many questions. But I will start with the most important one." Dr. Vell looked at her directly. "How do humans function this way? How do you endure what should be unendurable?" Gina was quiet for a moment. She seemed to be choosing her words carefully. "Humans evolved on a dangerous world," she said finally. Our planet has extreme weather, natural disasters, predators, and diseases. For most of our history, we had no technology, no medicine, no protection. We survived only because our bodies learned to keep functioning when everything was trying to kill us. But the pain, Dr. Vell said, the agony of 17 fractures. How can anyone think through that? How can anyone move? Pain is a warning, Gina said. It tells us that something is wrong. But humans learned long ago that sometimes the warning has to wait. Sometimes survival means pushing through the pain and dealing with it later. She paused. Our brains can partially disconnect from our bodies. We call it adrenaline or shock or sheer stubbornness. It's not something we choose consciously. It just happens when we need it. Dr. Vell thought about this. It made a terrible kind of sense. Is Engineer Kang considered exceptional among humans? He asked. Is his endurance unusual? Gina smiled, but there was something sad in it. Tai-Ho is a good man, a brave man, but he's not unusual. Any human parent would do the same thing for their child. Any human soldier for their unit. Any human friend for the people they care about. She looked at the closed door behind them. We don't leave people behind. It's not something we decide. It's just who we are. Dr. Vell felt a strange pressure in his chest. It took him a moment to recognize it as emotion, something he rarely allowed himself to feel. Ambassador, he said slowly, when the Galactic Coalition classified humans as Category 4, they made a mistake, a serious mistake. I know. Gina did not seem offended. When humans first joined the Coalition, we were still new to interstellar society. The classification was based on our physical fragility compared to other species. Our bones break more easily. Our skin is thin. We die from things that other species would survive without injury. But the classification did not account for your psychological endurance, your ability to function despite damage, your willingness to sacrifice for others. No, it didn't. Gina's eyes met his. That's why I wanted to speak with you, Doctor. You've seen what humans are really capable of. I hope you'll help the Coalition understand. Dr. Vell nodded. I will submit a full report. But I must warn you, Ambassador, some species will not react well to this information. Humans are concerning. Concerning? A species that can endure anything, that refuses to stop, that will sacrifice itself for others without hesitation. Dr. Vell's voice was quiet. That is not just admirable, that is frightening. Some will see humans as a threat. Gina's expression did not change. And what do you see, Doctor? Dr. Vell thought about Kang Tai-Ho, broken and bleeding, crawling through the darkness, carrying people who could not carry themselves. I see something I do not understand, he said honestly, and I see something I am grateful is not my enemy. Gina smiled. It was a small, knowing smile. That's fair, Doctor. That's more than fair. She shook his hand, the human gesture of respect, and went back into the recovery room to speak with Tai-Ho. Dr. Vell stood alone in the corridor for a long time. He had practiced medicine for 2 centuries. He had thought he understood the limits of living things. He was wrong. 3 weeks passed. The medical station returned to its normal routine. Patients came and went. Emergencies were handled. Life continued, but nothing was really the same. Not for Dr. Vell, not for his staff, and not for anyone who had been present when Kang Tai-Ho walked through that airlock. On the day of Tai-Ho's discharge, Dr. Vell stood in the treatment room and watched his patient prepare to leave. Tai-Ho moved slowly, carefully, but he moved on his own. His arm was still in a support brace. His ribs were still healing. His face still showed the yellow-green marks of fading bruises. But he was standing. He was walking. He was leaving the station on his own 2 feet, just as he had arrived. The healing gel will need to be changed every 3 days, Dr. Vell said, handing Tai-Ho a medical kit. The bone regeneration is progressing well, but you should avoid heavy activity for at least 2 more weeks. Tai-Ho took the kit with his one good hand. Thanks, Doc, for everything. You are welcome. Dr. Vell hesitated, then added, You were the most interesting patient I have ever treated. Tai-Ho laughed. It was a real laugh, warm and genuine, and it made his healing ribs ache. Interesting is one word for it. The door opened, and Park Sora and Yoon Minho walked in. Sora's head was still bandaged, but her eyes were bright and clear. Minho walked with a slight limp, but he was smiling. "Ready to go?" Sora asked. "The transport is waiting." Taiho nodded. He looked around the treatment room one last time, then looked at Dr. Vell. "Hey, Doc. Thanks for not giving up on me." Dr. Vell felt that strange pressure in his chest again, that emotion he rarely allowed himself to feel. "I do not give up on patient," he said, "but I suspect you would have survived regardless of what I did." Taiho grinned. "Maybe, but it was nice to have help." The three humans walked out of the treatment room together. Dr. Vell followed them to the docking area, where a small crowd had gathered. The miners were there, all 7 of them. The 3 Kellians stood together, their copper shells gleaming under the station lights. The 3 Orivians clustered nearby, their bioluminescent skin glowing with soft colors. And in the front, standing slightly apart from the others, was the young Orivian male that Taiho had carried out of the collapsed tunnel. His name was Keel, Dr. Vell had learned. He was only 19 cycles old. He had joined the mining team to send money home to his family. The cave collapse had been his first major accident. When Taiho approached, Keel stepped forward. He was trembling, but his face was determined. "Mr. Kang," he said, his voice formal and careful, "in my culture, when someone saves your life, you owe them a debt that can never be repaid. You become bound to them forever." Taiho stopped. He looked at the young Orivian with gentle eyes. "I heard you tried to help me dig," Taiho said. "When you were hurt and scared, you still tried to help. That took courage." Keel's skin flickered with surprise. I did not do much. I was weak." "No." Taiho shook his head. "You were injured and trapped in the dark, but you still reached out. You still tried. That's not weak. That's the bravest thing there is." Keel's eyes filled with moisture. His species did not cry the way humans did, but the emotion was the same. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for saving me, for saving all of us." Taiho reached out and placed his good hand on Keel's shoulder. It was a human gesture of comfort, but somehow Keel understood it. "You don't owe me anything," Taiho said. "Just live a good life. Take care of your family. Be kind to people who need help. That's all I want." The other miners stepped forward then, each of them offering their species' gesture of gratitude. The Kellians bowed low, their antennae touching the floor. The Orivians placed their hands over their hearts and dipped their heads. It was a moment of pure respect, pure gratitude, pure connection between species that had nothing in common except survival. Dr. Vell watched from a distance. Nurse Tova stood beside him, her antennae still and calm for the first time in weeks. Medical technician Rin was there too, his bioluminescent skin glowing a soft, peaceful blue. "He really is not exceptional to them," Tova said quietly. "The ambassador said so. Any human would have done the same." "Yes," Dr. Vell said. "Any human would have done the same." The words hung in the air between them. They were terrifying words. A species where anyone would crawl through a collapsing tunnel with 17 broken bones to save strangers. A species where sacrifice was not special, but normal. A species where the impossible was simply what you did when people needed help. The transport ship docked, and the humans said their final goodbyes. Taiho, Sora, and Minho walked through the airlock together, shoulder to shoulder, supporting each other as they went. Just before the doors closed, Taiho turned back. He raised his good hand in a human gesture of farewell. Then he was gone. 2 days later, Dr. Vell submitted his report to the Galactic Coalition Medical Board. He had worked on it carefully, reviewing every detail, choosing every word with precision. This report would change how the galaxy viewed humans forever. The report began with the medical facts. 17 fractures, 4 hours of survival without treatment, full consciousness throughout. It documented the surgery, the recovery, the impossible speed of healing. Then it continued with Dr. Vell's recommendations. Human physiological resilience exceeds all previously documented species. I recommend immediate reclassification of humans from Category 4, fragile bipeds, to Category 1, apex endurance species. I further recommend that all medical stations stock human-specific supplies and prepare psychological training for staff who may encounter injured humans still ambulatory despite catastrophic damage. Dr. Vell paused before writing the final section. It was unusual to include personal notes in a medical report, but this was an unusual case. I have served medicine for 200 cycles, he wrote. I believed I understood pain, survival, and the limits of flesh. Then a human walked into my station with 17 broken bones and asked if everyone else was okay. I do not understand humans. I am not certain I wish to, but I am grateful, deeply grateful, that they are our allies and not our enemies. He signed the report and sent it to the coalition. 3 months later, the reclassification was approved. Humans were officially recognized as one of the most resilient species in the known galaxy. Medical protocols were updated. Training programs were created. The galaxy learned to prepare for the day when a broken human would walk into their station and refuse to lie down. But Dr. Vell did not care about any of that. He went back to his work, treating patients, saving lives, doing what he had done for 2 centuries. Sometimes, though, late at night, he would think about Kang Taiho. He would remember the impossible creature who had walked through his doors with a shattered body and a spirit that refused to break. And he would remember the last thing Taiho had said before disappearing into the transport ship. It was something the young Arivian, Keel, had asked him. "Are you really unbreakable?" And Taiho had knelt down, wincing from his healing ribs, and looked at the young alien with tired, kind eyes. "No, little one. I break all the time. I just don't stay broken." Dr. Vell had added those words to the end of his report. They were not medical data. They were not scientific facts. But they were the truest thing he had ever heard about humans. They break all the time. They just don't stay broken. And in a galaxy full of species who shut down at the first sign of damage, who collapsed and waited for rescue, who let their bodies dictate their limits, that made humans the most terrifying and the most wonderful creatures Dr. Vell had ever encountered. He hoped he would never need their help, but he was grateful, deeply grateful, that they existed.